Okay, here we go. The final chapter. Chapter 21, Swimming with Worms. It was 3 o'clock on the dot when Pearl and Ben stepped through the wrought iron gate, certificates of merit in hand. They had hung their lab coats on the closet door. They had punched out at the time clock just as instructed. Mr. Tabby locked the gate behind them, and they said through the bars, "Dr. Wu expects you on Wednesday at precisely 8 a.m. "I'll be here," Pearl told him. "Me too," said Ben. "I can't say that I am pleased with your decision to return." Mr. Tabby's lip curled in a slight sneer. "You have proven yourselves to be overly curious and rather bothersome. But perhaps next time you will try to be obedient human children." "We won't break any rules," Ben said. "You can count on us." Pearl smiled. "Yeah, you can count on us." "I certainly do hope so." And with a twitch of his mustache, he turned and hurried back to the hospital, just as Ben's grandfather pulled up his car. "Would you like a ride to the dollar store?" Grandpa Abe asked Pearl. "No, thank you," she said. She didn't want to be stuck in the backseat of Ben's grandfather's car with so much excitement flowing through her. What an adventure she had just had. She wanted to run. "Be sure to call me and tell me about those leprechaun shoes," Ben said. "Okay," she whispered back. "You'll be the first to know." "See you later," he called as he slipped into the back of his grandfather's car. And they drove off. Pearl ran across the road, careful not to step on anything yucky. She didn't want to stain her beautiful pink leather shoes. They made her feel light. In fact, they made her whole body feel light. Right then and there, it didn't matter to Pearl whether the shoes were magical, because the day had been more exciting than it could have ever been in a dream. She picked up the pace and then broke into a run. A lake monster, a leprechaun, were now added to the list of imaginary creatures that she had gotten to meet. Who would ever believe such a thing? But many questions remained. Why was Dr. Wu always covered in fairy dust? And what had happened to the last apprentice? Who was the dangerous someone who wanted to get inside the hospital? And the biggest question of all, still to be answered, where was the imaginary world? Yoo-hoo! Oof. Pearl had just reached the edge of town when Mrs. Mulberry's shrill voice filled the air. She stopped in her tracks to find the president of the welcome wagon and her daughter, Victoria, standing in the middle of the concrete duck pond. "What are you doing?" Pearl asked. Victoria, now dressed in a polka dot bathing suit, pulled a pair of swimming goggles over her glasses. "We're looking for worms." "That's right," said Mrs. Mulberry. Her bathing suit was striped and looked like long underwear. "I have on the best authority that worms like to go swimming on summer days. As soon as we find one, we can make an appointment with that Dr. Wu. Go ahead, Victoria. Stick your head in the water and take a look." Victoria frowned. "I don't want to stick my head in the water." "Victoria, sweetie, do as I tell you." "But there's duck poop, Ma." Mrs. Mulberry put her hands on her hips and glared at her daughter. "I am not going to let that Dr. Wu keep me locked out of the hospital forever. I must know her secrets, so stick your head in the water and find me a worm." And with a moan and then a deep breath, Victoria took the plunge. Pearl giggled. Dr. Wu's secrets were safe and sound inside the old button factory, and they would stay that way. She would make certain of that. And so off she ran, her new leprechaun shoes carrying her down the sidewalk and back to the dollar store. And she didn't get into one bit of trouble along the way. And then there are their certificates of merit for curing lonely lake monster itis or whatever. Okay, now that was the end of the lonely lake monster. And I bet you probably don't want a little tiny sneak peek about the next book, do you? Oh, you do? Okay. Chapter 1, Night Noise. It sounded like claws scratching against the side of the house. Giant claws. Ben's eyes flew open. Where am I? He wondered. The room was inky black, thanks to a pair of heavy curtains that blocked the moonlight. The mattress felt lumpy and the quilt smelled like mothballs. There was only one thing that was recognizable. The soft gnawing sound of Snooze, Ben's hamster, as he chewed a toilet paper tube. It wasn't unusual for Snooze to be wide awake in the middle of the night. He was nocturnal, after all. But the other noise? Screech! Had a window just opened? Ben sat up and clutched the pillow to his chest, his eyes adjusted. He remembered that he wasn't in his regular bedroom. No glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, no dinosaur-shaped nightlight in the corner, no mother, no father down the hall to ask, "What's going on out there?" It was the cramped extra bedroom next to the kitchen at his grandfather's house. And the noise had come from the kitchen. Hiss. Oh no. Ben froze. Maybe it would be best to stay in bed. If a burglar had decided to take something from Grandpa Abe's house, then let it be so. What could Ben do? He wasn't any good at karate or judo, and he certainly didn't know how to use a lasso. The only time he had gotten into a fight was when he wrestled Eli Frankelbaum to the ground after Eli had cut in front of him in line at school. It had been bad enough to wait 10 minutes to get a bag of chips, but to have Eli snicker and push him out of the way, go to the very front, was totally unfair. Whoosh! And a sudden burst of orange light glowed beneath the bedroom door and then disappeared. Ben stiffened. Smoke. He scrambled out of bed, and if there was a fire in the kitchen, the door would feel hot, but it felt cool to his touch. So very carefully, he cracked it open. Moonlight trickled in through the front windows. Barnaby stood on the table, surrounded by dirty dishes, his back arched, his fur sticking straight up as if someone had rubbed a balloon all over it. Tendrils of smoke rose from a single hole in the tablecloth. Barnaby just stared at the counter, hissing like a snake. Ben poked his head out of his bedroom just far enough to get a better view. At Grandpa Abe's house, the kitchen window was always left halfway open so Barnaby could come and go as he pleased. But on this night, it had been opened all the way, and someone was reaching through. Tune in.